Welcome to the Daily Coffee Chat with Ryan Frank. So glad you are here. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, whether you're listening to the podcast, however you're catching this today, I'm so glad that you have joined us. If you have a question for me, I'd love for you to text it to this number right here, 833-792-6372. If you have a question for the coffee chat, or if you have a recommended topic, love all of you that have been texting saying, Ryan, have you thought about tackling this in a coffee chat? Have you thought about interviewing this person in a coffee chat? Would love to get some perspective around this in a coffee chat. So thank you. Keep those texts coming, 833-792-6372. Hey, reminder this morning, I've been reminded, part of it has been because Sean Sweet's going to jump online with me here in just a few minutes. Sean and I have been talking a lot lately about relationships and connecting. I sent an email yesterday with the subject line that kids really care about Zoom? And I wouldn't say it was clickbait, but I was trying to really make a point that kids don't care as much about Zoom. They don't care as much about your pre-recorded services as much as they care about you, and they care about each other. And they are hungry to connect, and they crave that, connecting with you, connecting with their leaders, connecting with their friends. And so Sean and I are going to talk about that this morning. And let me just remind you this morning to do something today to connect with one or two of your kids, with one or two of your volunteers. Do something to connect with your pastor today. A lot of times it's easy to see online all of these cool things that other churches are doing, and all of these videos are putting together, and they're great. And this is one reason why with the COVID, we totally, within about 10 days, relaunched kidsmatter.com into a place where you can go and you can get downloads for your Zoom meetings and your live streams, stuff that you can share with your parents. We understand the value of all that, but there's something much more valuable, and that is those personal connections. So in your Zoom, in your live streams, in your pre-recorded services, am I creating connections? When we are offline, what can I do to create connections? Who is a kid that I can send a postcard to today? What family can I FaceTime with today? Who is someone that I could pick up my phone, go old school, and just give them a call? Remember, you are a shepherd first and foremost. And if there's anybody that gets shepherding, it's Sean Sweet. Sean, why don't you jump on here with me? Hannah, good morning. Amber, good morning. Good to see you. Sean Marshall, good morning. Sean Marshall. Gilberta, welcome. Those of you that are with me on Facebook right now, why don't you leave a comment, please? Leave a comment and let me know where you are joining us from today, where you're joining us from today. One of the greatest shepherds of preteens I know is Sean Sweet. Sean Sweet doesn't like it when I say this because he's very humble, but Sean Sweet is the #1 influencer and thought leader in preteen ministry today. God has just given him a voice. And what I love about it is, although God has given him this great platform in which he is helping hundreds and thousands of churches rethink ministry to preteens, he just has a pastor's heart. And if you called him and you said, Sean, what's going on? Sean's not going to tell you about the 4, 5, 6 curriculum that's being used by hundreds of churches around the nation. He's going to tell you about his Zoom that he did with his preteens on Wednesday night. He loves his church, and he loves the church with a capital C. And I'm blessed to have Sean as a friend. I've told Sean, I don't know if God's ever going to call me to plant a church or take over somebody's church one day, but if I do, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get Sean Sweet to come be my preteen pastor, because you are the real deal, Sean. Problem is, Sean lives out in beautiful California, and I don't know that Grant County, Indiana is on your bucket list, is it, Sean?
Well, it's raining here today, so today it might not make too much of a difference. I don't know what the weather's like there, Ryan.
Yeah, it's kind of cool and rainy. It
is.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
Sean, you've been out here to Kids Matter HQ. You've visited Marion, Indiana.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, and I told Sean that before we went live this morning, Sean, this is a sign of a true friend, because it's 11 a.m. I've been up for several hours. I've already had some meetings. I'm on like my third cup of coffee. It's 8 a.m. out there, and Sean even had to drive to the church because all of his stuff was at the church. So, Sean, you're a good man.
Ryan, it's my I feel honored that you would ask me to come and speak.
Well,
yeah. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sean, one thing that you're doing well, I feel like from my perspective, is using Zoom with your preteens. And I want to talk to you about that, because there have been a lot of conversations. If you follow the hashtag Kidmin like I do, and you read what people are saying on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and even our own Facebook group, there are a lot of conversations around Zoom and, hey, how effective is Zoom? And are we pushing out too much video content to kids? And, these kids already have to keep up with all their e-learning, and mom and dad are trying to keep up with all their stuff. And we don't know, maybe Zoom isn't as effective as we thought it was, but you have some interesting perspectives on this. Zoom can be effective, or it can't be effective, depending on how you go into it. Talk to us about it.
Yeah. So, people, there's these different terms that have come out over the last few weeks, like Zoom bombing, right? And Zoom fatigue.
Yeah.
And Zoom fatigue. I want to introduce a new phrase, and that is Zoom bashing. And I see people doing this. I see people saying that Zoom is, stop doing Zoom, or, I'm not doing Zoom because I'm delivering gift bags, or I'm making personal phone calls. And I want to say, I think there is great purpose in making personal phone calls. There's great purpose in delivering gift bags, or doing mailers, or even doing videos. But one of the purposes that I don't know how else you accomplish it is the community peer-to-peer. So part of church is not just their relationship with me.
Yeah.
Part of, especially with preteens, and I think it grows in importance as they're moving through the preteen years, is their relationship and the community with one another. And I know that Zoom is difficult. And in fact, I think we all need to remember that Zoom was not created as a children's ministries tool.
No, it wasn't.
It was not created with that in mind. So it is not set up for us to be like, hey, here's a great ministry tool. It is something that we have, appropriated or Jimmy rigged or whatever to use in this season. And it is an effective tool for community building. And I don't mean their relationship with me. I mean their relationship with one another.
I love that. Now, Sean, something I've noticed with my kids, all three, even Lucy, who's 15, she has special needs. You know that. And then my 10-year-old and even our 5-year-old. I think one thing that they have really craved, they love these Zoom meetings. And I don't even know if it's as much for the purpose of the Zoom meeting as much as they want to see their friends' faces.
Right.
And they miss each other. And while it's not the same, I think that is bringing a lot of value. And I think of my girls at home, just being able to see each other, hear each other's voices, talk to each other. I think that's part of your point, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be more than a platform to push out your children's church.
That's right. Yes. I mean, there's a message that you have, and that's great. And there's the relationship with the kids and you, and that's great. But how are you facilitating the community?
Yes.
And I really think that there are things that we can expect with Zoom. And I've come up with like 6 stages of Zoom.
Ooh, you gonna share them?
Yeah, sure. If I
you can't tee us up for that without sharing them. All right, let's hear them.
Okay. And this is where people, I think, may be at one place. And I just want to encourage you that it's just a place and you can push through it.
Yeah.
So first of all, there is the Zoom learning. And this is when people are just like, you see them on the screen and they're just like, they don't know where the buttons are, or maybe you don't see them at all because they can't even figure out how to get onto Zoom.
Yep.
And this is where a lot of those personal phone calls, and we're helping them to kind of learn how to do this thing.
Mhm.
So that's stage one. Stage two is Zoom intrigue. And this is where you can see it in the face of the kids. They're just like, this is, and this is probably the first couple of weeks when you're like, hey, everybody's coming, and they all look so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it's because everybody's intrigued by this thing. And look, there's my picture in a box, and so that's stage two, is Zoom intrigue. But then we start to move into the third stage, which I like to call chicken nuggets. And this is where the kids are becoming so comfortable that they're like laying on their bed with chicken nuggets hanging out of their mouth.
I love it.
And
Love it.
and now you're starting to lose them if you don't challenge them in this stage.
Yeah.
And this is where you need to say, guys, if you're in church, I would not allow that behavior, and I'm not going to allow that right here.
Mhm.
You guys need to sit up. I want to see your faces.
Yeah.
Don't turn your cameras off, because listen, if you came to church, you wouldn't put a bag over your head.
Yep.
This is church. So I expect you to be sitting up and paying attention. I want to see your faces. And so there's kind of that challenge that comes at stage three.
Yeah.
Stage four is Zoom fatigue. And this is the one we've heard about, where the kids are just there. Oh, I don't want to go on to another Zoom meeting. And I have to tell you, kids will sit and stare at a screen for hours at a time, right? They'll watch TV or YouTube or whatever for hours at a time. So why is this different? It is different because we are not entertainers. We are pastors. We are not here to create an entertaining experience for them. This is different. This is church, and we're creating an engaging experience for them. And so that's where we need to make sure that we're doing that. We're asking questions and using all the different things that we can in Zoom. People are always looking for Zoom games, right, Ryan? And it's because they're looking for ways of engaging the kids. And so we have to be engaging with our preteens. So those are kind of the main stages. And then what we get to at the end is Zoom culture. And Zoom culture is where we are now with our group, with our local group. We have 70 that just came last Wednesday that met. Our numbers have actually been consistent and growing, not falling off. And it's because we're consistently challenging the platform to be a place where community happens. And I don't know how else you accomplish that in this situation that we're in. And by community, I don't mean your relationship with the kids. That is super important. But their relationship with one another and the community, that's what I think Zoom can accomplish for us. And so I want to just encourage you, if you've been Zoom bashing, please tell me another way to do this. Tell me another way of fostering community with my kids.
Did you have 70 kids? 70 faces?
Yeah, so that's our local group. And then we also, we've invited every church on the planet to bring their preteens to our Thursday services. And we facilitate that. We do the security for it. We make sure it's all signed up and everything. And we had 200 last week at that one on Thursday. So yeah, and anybody who's listening, if you are interested and you're like, okay, somebody else do it for me, and we're going to help facilitate the community within your group.
Yeah.
We run it for you. We do all the program, all that, and let you be the pastor of your kids within Zoom breakouts, which we use as part of our meetings. They can contact me, Ryan, and we'd love to get them set up. And so that's for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Actually, 3rd graders now, because they're getting ready to graduate.
Yeah.
So 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th grade.
So if somebody wanted to be a part of that, how would they contact you, Sean?
I'll give you my email here. It's ssweet at destinyrockland.com.
Cool. Andy, can you drop Sean's email into the comments?
Actually, I just did it.
Did you just do it? Thank you.
Yeah,
Sean.
I just dropped it in.
Now, out of curiosity, how many kids can you put on a Zoom meeting at one time where they all see each other?
So you can do up to 500 with the account that we have. You can actually, I believe there's a 1,000 account also.
Wow.
And what we do is we have our leaders, we make them co-hosts. Some of our leaders are co-hosts, and they're able to scroll through the pictures and address any issues. They also work on engaging the kids during the meeting. So they'll ask them questions. The kids can send messages to them only. They can't send messages to each other. We have it set up so they can't do that. So you can do up to 500. Sorry, I answered your question with more words than I needed to.
No, that's good. That's good. So don't miss this. This is why I asked Sean to jump on here because there has been a lot of questions about Zoom bashing. Hey, is this really effective? Don't miss how Zoom can create that community that kids desperately need. We all need it. It's a need that we inherited from Adam. This need for community and to connect. And an effective way to do that these days is on Zoom, but you need to be intentional about it. You need to be consistent with it, and it can be effective. Let me ask you this. Do you think, Sean, Zoom will play any part of your future a year from now, or when we get back to normal, do you think there will be any more Zoom, or do you think Zoom will go away?
I've really thought a lot about that question, Ryan. One thing is, as we're getting back to church meeting and we're at limited capacities, so our church is starting back a week from Sunday,
Okay.
25% capacity.
Okay.
And the thing is that there's no place for the community to gather. Like, how do I get all my kids in one room together? Even the people who are. So I think short term, what we're going to do is continue doing our Wednesday and Thursdays. We're going to continue doing those services for people.
Yeah.
And then second of all, we're going to do events on Zoom with the church-wide community, because now that these church groups have been meeting with us on Thursday, and I mean, we've had over 40 different churches that have brought preteens to be a part of it. Why not do a weekend event, or one evening event kind of thing, where it's like the church is meeting? So we're looking at doing events for kids with their groups on Zoom sometime down the road. So yeah, right. I think there's probably ways we haven't even dreamed of yet of continuing to use Zoom, but it's such a great community builder. Like, here we are right now, you and me, and we could bring in 5 people and we could all chat with each other.
There's no doubt. I have talked to more of my friends and had more conversations with friends like you over the last several weeks on these coffee chats than I ever did prior.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really neat, and how we're just staying connected every day. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Can I just say one last thing about Zoom fatigue?
Sir.
I know you got to move on here, but
You're good.
Here, I want to say this. If you are feeling Zoom fatigue, it's a real thing. And I read a great article. Actually, Sean Marshall, who's in the chat right now, he shared this article with me. And one of the things it said is that you are learning a new skill. That's exhausting. But once you get through that, it's like anything else. There is a fatigue that comes with learning something, but keep on going at it, and you will eventually, you get to a place where you're comfortable. You're probably comfortable here because you've been doing this kind of stuff for years. But it is exhausting at first to learn a new language, and that's what this is. So keep on pushing through, and encourage your preteens to come out. Tell parents what it's for. Don't give up on Zoom. It can be very effective.
Sean, take 30 seconds, and I feel like I would be doing a disservice to the community if you didn't talk about 456.org.
Yeah, so 456.org is about raising the value of ministry to preteens, of your ministry to your preteens. And we just want to come alongside and equip you with resources, with training. We've got a curriculum, but we're not a curriculum company. That's just one of the resources that we have to help you as you're raising the value of your ministry to preteens. We have peer groups. We have so many different ways, and we would love to connect with you. If you even want to just come and observe our Thursday service, email me. If you want to come and steal ideas from us, we're going to say come in and have them. We are just here to equip the community to raise the value of ministry to preteens in whatever way we can. And that website is 456, all spelled out, FOURFIVESIX.org.
And you're
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for joining me this morning.
My
Love
pleasure,
you, brother. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Boy, Sean's getting a lot of love on Facebook. Thank you for all these comments. Yeah, thank you, Candace, Catherine, Lisa, Sean, Amanda, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel Price. Thank you for dropping that link in for us. Good to see you this morning, Rachel Price. Chandler, good morning. Amy Bates, good morning. Good to see you. Excited to talk to you. Well, first of all, I wanted to let you know before I bring in my next guest. I want you to take a look at the screen. I'm going to share my screen momentarily. There we go. We have, as you start thinking about Father's Day, we have 4 brand new, with more coming this week, downloads to help you prepare for Father's Day. Whether you are going to, there they are, whether you're going to be meeting in person, whether you're going to be doing Zooms, whether you're going to be doing pre-recorded services. We've got, if you go to kidsmatter.com, put a Z in there, scroll down 3 rows to seasonal. We've got a brand new Who is the Daddy Bible Edition on-screen quiz. Which dad said it? Crowd breaker game. Famous dads of the Bible quiz, Bible quiz video, and dad jokes, funny or fail, which is pretty good on-screen game. We've got a Father's Day lesson. We've got some more Father's Day media hitting the site this week. So be checking as you start. I know some of you won't think about Father's Day till the week before. Let's be honest. Some of you started thinking about Father's Day as soon as Mother's Day was over. Don't miss these new downloads over at Kids Matter. Now, there's a great member of our community, Candace Marison. Candace has been here at Kids Matter HQ several times. She's made the drive down from Michigan. She's on Facebook right now. Good morning, Candace. Candace is a dear friend. I could call Candace and say, Candace, I need your help. And she would jump right in. She loves the Lord. She loves kids ministry. And not too long ago, she sent me a book that her pastor wrote that I brought with me. I've had it in my office for a while. And last week, I thought, I need to see if Pastor Phil will jump on the coffee chat with me. So Phil, jump in here with me. Phil McKinney is the pastor at Believers Christian Church in Eagle, Michigan. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
Well, thanks for being with me. You have a rock star of a kids pastor.
You are not
Candace
kidding.
Marison.
You are not kidding. She is a rock star.
She is the real deal. Just a great supporter of our ministry and everything that we're doing. And we love her to death. So you've got a good one in Candace.
For sure.
Phil, you have written this book that I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, but you're a pastor. You
Yes,
also write, you speak, you consult, you are an entrepreneur. And I love that about pastors like you, because there are, I dealt with this tension for several years of my life where I really felt God calling me to pastor, but I also had this entrepreneurial itch. And there were voices in my life that said, you need to pick one or the other. You need to either be a pastor or you need to be an entrepreneur, but you can't be both. So you either need to decide, am I going to work for the church or am I going to pursue some of these other things? And I love talking to pastors like you that understand that God's a little bigger than that and that God wires us all differently. And you can be a pastor and you can be a shepherd and you can do the work of God and work in the church, yet have an entrepreneurial spirit. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, so you're right. I had a very similar challenge. I had people in my life that I know that my best interest was in mind, and they weren't trying to discourage me or dissuade me. They just wanted to make sure that I was, being authentic to my call. And I definitely called the pastor. I'm the founding pastor here at Believers, but I absolutely have an affection for the marketplace. And I think in large part, it came from this division that I recognized both within myself or the church that I grew up in, that if someone, say a young person was graduating high school and they announced that they were going to go to Michigan State University, which is a big campus right here in our neighborhood.
Yep.
And they were going to study accounting. And then another graduating student got done and they said, well, I feel called to the ministry. I'm going to go off to Bible school or seminary. We actually celebrated the one going off to seminary or Bible school at a much higher degree or level than we did the one that felt a gifting to go into accounting.
Yeah.
And what that created within church culture was this hierarchy. If you were going to do quote unquote God's work, you had to do it in the box of the local church. And what I discovered in my journey of being bivocational first, being in the marketplace, but also following my call in the ministry, that there was no shortage of opportunity to be a light in dark spaces. And what I discovered now as a title, right? I mean, the actual full-time, this is where I earn my primary income as a pastor. That title actually has limited some of my audience, because people might say, well, you're supposed to say that. You're a pastor. You're supposed to think this way.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in the marketplace and shared, the same grouchy boss or the same memo or wage freeze, or traveling with people that when you go out of state or out of country with people, all of a sudden you find out there's someone different. And now why are you different? And it opens up a door, because there's not this hierarchical separation now from, looking up to a pedestal of a pastor. Sometimes that happens to us, but we're more on an even playing field.
Yeah.
My passion is, that was a long answer, sorry.
No, that's good. It's good. I love it.
I'm excited about those who understand that ministry is everywhere that we go, and every platform, every arena.
I agree. Beth and I talk about this a lot, that really life is sacred. And
yes,
we do pray for more pastors, and the church in the world needs more men and women of God to step up to the plate and serve the church. But we need some godly marketplace leaders too.
Amen.
And I don't know that it has to be either or. Maybe this is a word for some of you that are feeling this tension, like, hey, I feel this calling to ministry in the local church, yet I have this entrepreneurial itch, or God's wired me with a mind for business or numbers. I don't know that it has to be either or. It can be both and just follow God's will for your life. And you talk a lot about, Phil, when God gives you a dream. That's your book is called No Ego, which is a great book. Thank you for having Candace send this to me. Love the book. And you say at the top, ditch your ego, find your dream. Let's talk about dreams for a minute. Why is it that, I don't know, do you feel like we dream enough? Do you feel like the problem with us, with people, is that we don't dream enough? Or do you feel like we dream, it's just we're afraid to pursue that dream, whatever that dream is?
Well, yes and yes. So
okay, yep.
I personally make a distinction between dreamers and visionaries. I actually have a bit of an irritant toward dreamers alone. And I make the distinction on those that are always living in the space that what they're going to do, or when I, then I. Yep. And so you got a lot of talk that maybe we convince ourselves, if I'm talking about it, I'm actually doing it. And so that I don't really want to know what someone's dream is, as much as I want to know is, what is the very first step that you're taking? And I like to help people with that, because I think we look at the macro vision, and all we need is a micro step to start moving towards that. But the part of dreaming is important, and having a vision for where you want to go. But I think part of the message in the book is around ego being the primary thing that we are challenged with when it comes to pursuing something bigger than what we currently see, and believing that God could use someone like me or someone like you to do something as big as what our dream is or our vision is.
Yeah.
The book is written based on the scripture around Jesus, Matthew 16:25. He says, those who will desire to save their life will lose it, but those who will lose their life for my sake, they'll find it. Well, with that verse came alive to me when I discovered that the word life there, which appears twice in that verse, it comes from the Greek word psyche, where we get the English word psyche. And then historically, that same word was translated ego. So I hijacked the phrase that Jesus said and said, if you'll ditch your ego, you'll find your dream.
Yeah, that's good.
And that doesn't, because I like what you said. You said life is sacred, and I completely wholeheartedly agree with that. And so God will speak to our hearts a dream or a vision or a gift, and we're not the ones that pick our gift. The gift giver gave us that. And the best way we can honor him is by acknowledging that we have the gift, and then walking out incrementally in that space.
What would you say to someone? I love that, to someone that's maybe like, I don't think I have an ego.
Yeah.
Let's drill into that a little bit more. How does our ego, even if you don't view yourself as an egotistical person, how does our ego get in the way of our dream?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I think when I ask people, or even I've discovered that some people don't buy the book because they think, well, I'm not an arrogant person. And I think the vast majority of those that are probably watching even today would agree with that they don't think themselves as arrogant or as the type of person that, thinks they're better than. I've discovered that's only half of what ego is. I think that it's also egotistical to be so self-centered in focusing on your limitations, believing what you feel over you above what Jesus says about you. That means that you're placing your opinion of you higher than what he says about you. And I believe that most of us that identify as Christians struggle with that aspect of ego far more than thinking that we're better than. It's actually a false humility to believe how you feel about yourself above what God says about you. So that's where the ego part that I really dive mostly into in the book is these limiting thoughts, these limiting beliefs. The Apostle Paul says, don't think greater of yourself than you ought to. He didn't say we shouldn't think great of ourselves. Just don't think greater of yourself than you ought to. And I think putting ourselves on the pedestal that we think is humility, when really we're just saying, fear has a louder voice in my life than the Spirit of God does.
Love it. Let's get into the micro for a few minutes and talk to us, Phil, about someone that's listening. God's given me this dream. Maybe it's something for my ministry, for my church. Maybe it's something to do with my family. Maybe it's with my finances. Maybe God, I feel like God's always wanted me to start this business or quit my job and do this. I've got this dream. What are some practical things that we can start doing right now to see that dream become a reality?
Another great question. Thank you for that. So I think it's looking at perspective and mindset. These are two key things, because perspective is what you and I see. We could be standing shoulder to shoulder and we look out and we see the same exact thing. But mindset is what you do with what you see. And the mindsets that you and I create are based on our past, our experiences. So in order to change our mindset, which oftentimes get fixed based on the experiences that we've had, or the limited exposure that we've had, we need to start creating new experiences. And every single time that we create a new experience, we begin to keep a commitment to ourselves. When I was I think 3 or 4 years old, I was one of those children that wouldn't wait for the answer. I ran across the kitchen one time and saw the glowing red oven, or the top of the stove. And at the exact same time that I asked my mom, is this hot? I put my hand on it. Yeah. So the experience tells me, don't do that, right? I mean, it's going to hurt. In order to create some new experiences, because sometimes we've tried something and we failed, or we stepped out and it didn't happen like we thought it would, or it didn't happen as quickly. It's simply making small steps of new experiences that begin to build confidence within our lives. And I think, going back to the dream revision scenario, if we're always thinking about the next thing to happen before I make a statement in the book that you don't get promoted in life based on what you could do. You get promoted in life based on what you have done.
Yeah, that's good. Jesus
made it, even more simple. He said, if you'll be faithful with little things, then you be trusted or faithful with larger things. And so it's not about having to have the big leaps. It's every incremental step that will get you moving toward your dream, the business idea that you have, the ministry that's within you. And there's probably people that are watching now that, they feel an unction even to go in serving the local church in children's ministry or any space. But we're looking at our current condition, and our current condition is not greater than our conclusion. And just walking that out is something that I think is the secret sauce to becoming more.
Yeah, I love it. Perspective and mindset. Final question. And then I want to talk to everybody about how they can get your book, and stay connected with you. I think one of the things that keeps us from pursuing those dreams that God places in our heart, maybe more than anything else, and it connects to ego, is just that fear of failure. We're afraid to fail. We're afraid to fail.
Yeah.
If I quit my job and I start this business, what if I fail? If I launch this ministry or start this thing and it fails, what's my pastor going to think? Am I going to get fired? We have all of these fears of failure within us. How do we overcome those fears of failure, or do we overcome those fears of failure?
So I think that's definitely our battle all the time. And as you grow, and just thinking back to when you first launched out into what you're doing, the cost of failure was much less, right? I mean, if it didn't work, you weren't out much.
Yeah.
But at some point, when now you got staff and you got buildings or mortgages or whatever that might be,
yeah.
So you never escape that the battle of fear. And I think the reason that courage is so important in this is because courage is not denying that we're afraid. It's assessing that what God's calling you to do is more important than your fear. And I personally, I dealt with the fear of insecurity, of what if, and I still battle that. I'd be lying if I said it didn't come up or raise its head. But I think for me, and the most important thing that we as Christians need to remember is our identity. That we are sons and daughters of God, and He's a good.
I agree.
And so when I have my confidence in Him, and I know that He loves me, He adores me, and His plans for me to succeed are far greater than my desire to succeed. Well, now I don't feel like rejection is going to hit me as bad, because He's never going to leave me or forsake me. And I just need to be committed like that. The very first 3 disciples that got called by Jesus, they were professional fishermen. Their skill set was not in the ministry. And Jesus said, that's not my concern for you. If you follow me in Matthew 4:19, I'll do the making. So it all comes down to our confidence in knowing that Jesus loves us, that if we will follow Him, then He will make sure that even if we trip up and fall, just like I've got 4 children, and not one of them ever started walking on their first attempt. They stood up, they were wobbly. A little while later, they took that first step and they fell. Yep. I didn't run over to them and scold them and yell at them and get upset because they tipped over.
That's
no, man, I called everybody I knew. Man, my little boy's walking. He's like 9 months old.
Got your phone out, start videoing it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that linking that to the approval of our Father is what's key. Even when we trip up, fall down, mess up, He's there to pick us up. And the vision for our lives, it hasn't changed because we fell down. We get back up and we keep going and we learn from it.
I love it. It's Pastor Phil McKinney. Phil, if you are just catching this, has an amazing kids pastor, Candace Marison, who is part of our Facebook group and our KidMin community, and we love her to death. And she connected me to her pastor and sent me his book. Will you tell us about the book? How can we get it? Here it is. It's called No Ego. Ditch Your Ego, Find Your Dream. Talk to us about where we can get the book.
You can go to our website, which is noegocc.com. And there's a link that will pop up immediately. You can access it that way. We can also direct people to Amazon. If you simply type in No Ego, ditch your ego, find your dream, it'll take you to the page, and you can get it through Prime that way as well.
Love it. Pastor Phil, would you pray just a word of blessing over all of these kids pastors that are watching live and those that will catch this later on the podcast or on Facebook or YouTube? Just pray a blessing over them and their families and their ministries.
My privilege.
Would you do that? Thank you.
Yes, sir. Father, thank you so much for your grace, which is sufficient for every need that we have. Thank you for the gifting and calling that you've placed in the hearts of those who are serving the most precious among us. God, we thank you for your protection over their marriages, over their households. And we thank you for the provision, God, that you continue to supply every need. Lord, every church and every church family that's connected through these ministers and those that will watch this later. God, we thank you that as we keep our focus on you, we can do the impossible. Like Peter, as he trusted you, he walked on water. God, I thank you for having testimonies being established right now as we commit to following you in every season, including this pandemic. And God, we give you the glory in advance in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor Phil. The book, No Ego. Go to noegocc.org. Did I say that right?
.com.
.com. Andy, I'm sure, is dropping the link in Facebook. So click
Wonderful.
that link or go to Amazon. Pastor Phil, keep up the great work. Let's stay
Thank
connected.
Thank you. I
Blessings.
look forward to it. Have a great day. Thanks for
Hey,
having
you
me.
too. Thanks again. Man, what a great coffee chat. This has been good talking to Sean Sweet, talking to Pastor Phil McKinney. Thank you all for joining me today. If you're just logging in, I mentioned a few minutes ago, and let me mention it one more time, that I don't want you to miss two things today on kidsmatter.com. I don't want you to miss, if you scroll down 3 rows, we are starting to populate the site with Father's Day downloads. We've got 4 on-screen games right here. We have a lesson coming this week, more videos and stuff to help you prepare for Father's Day, whether you're doing this in person or whether you are pre-recording a service, whether you're using Zoom. All these will work great and be a help to you. Also, scroll down a little bit more. I want to remind you that right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor moving around or not, but right there is a free, this song goes away tomorrow as a free download from All Stars Kids Club. There is Hope. Totally free. You don't have to purchase anything else to get it. Over 500 of you have downloaded this in the last day or two. It's a great reminder to kids that during times of uncertainty and when there's fear around them, that there is hope and they can lean in on that hope. That is a totally free download right now that goes away tomorrow. So jump over to kidsmatter.com. While you're there, poke around. Every day we're adding new content to kidsmatter.com to help you in your ministry to kids and families. Thank you, Sean Sweet, for joining me today. Thank you, Pastor Phil McKinney. It's been a great coffee chat. If you have a question, if there's anything you'd like to discuss, please text me 833-792-6372. Kidmen, have a great day. Be blessed. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, 11 a.m. Central, or 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Bring your coffee. Mine's gotten a little cool sitting here, but bring your coffee and we're going to have a great time together. Be blessed. Talk to you tomorrow.